This is episode 130, The 3 Choices That Can Change Your Life. Welcome to Alive by Design. My name is Blake Mallon, and we're here to bring you inspiring people, principles, and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. Open your mind and let's dive in. Hey guys, before you listen to the podcast, I just want to drop in and say I appreciate you for being here, and I'm super excited about this new Walk With Me series. These are solo episodes where I take some time in the middle of my morning run through the Santa Monica Mountains to share some inspired ideas and thoughts on my mind and heart. If you want to join me for any of these conversations live, you can catch me many mornings on my Facebook page, facebook.com/BlakeMallon.page. Would love to see you there. Love you guys. Enjoy the episode. Walk with me. So what if I told you every single one of us, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what you're doing right now in this very moment, every one of us, in every moment, are simultaneously making 3 decisions. 3 decisions, almost instantaneously at the exact same time, a lot of times at a subconscious or unconscious level. You're not even aware of the decisions we are making. It's happening as just part of how we operate. And how those 3 decisions we make in every single moment of our life ultimately create the experience that literally is our life. That'd be a pretty bold statement. Like 3 decisions simultaneously, subconsciously, every one of us, everywhere, every moment. Yep. And I'm willing to bet that you've never thought about many of these decisions, but once you hear what they are, you're going to be like, yep, every moment, every time. And learning what these decisions are, and then ultimately, as with all personal development, growth, mindfulness, is about learning how to be aware and then influence, right? Have power over our ability to consciously, intentionally choose the answers to those decisions we're making. Ultimately makes a difference. It puts us in the driver's seat of our life. So I want to talk about those 3 decisions, break them down. And I promise you this will be one of those conversations. It's super easy to remember. It gives you a simple framework, a simple formula that I guarantee if you get this, if you're present with us today, you're going to be applying it over and over and over again daily in your life. So let's talk about these 3 decisions. Decision number 1, every one of us make in every moment of our life, that constantly we have a choice in, is what are we focused on? Think about it. Every single moment of our life, usually unaware, we are making a decision. What are we focusing on? Fairly recently, I was teaching my son Grayson how to ride a bike. And I remember one of the first lessons I had to teach him was to focus on where he wanted to go and not on the thing that he didn't want to hit. Because he would get on the bike, and when you're first learning, you don't have a whole lot of control. And, you know, every little thing, the tree, the curb, another person, he'd get fixated on the thing that he didn't want to hit. So he'd look over there. And of course, what do you do when you look at the thing you don't want to hit on a bicycle, but then direct the bicycle in that direction? All right, it's a lesson we all learn very early in life on the bike, but it applies to just about anything. You know, I have a lot of friends that are really into downhill mountain biking, like the full helmet and gear, and the stuff they do on bikes these days is absolutely crazy. And I can only imagine if, for instance, they are flying down the hill through off these terrain and obstacles, and for instance, they focus on something they don't want to hit, what would happen? Or you go up to, all the way the Formula One drivers, right, speeding around. What if they, for a split second, started to focus on the wall or their competitor? You guys get the gist. Where focus goes, energy flows, right? Where we decide to put our focus is where we direct all of our faculties, all of our senses, right? All of our being in a direction. I mean, it is the laser sight, right, on the gun, right? It is the focal point of the driver. It is the compass, right, of the navigator. It is. Our focus dictates our direction. And it's something so simple to understand, but something so profound to really comprehend, because so often when it comes to our focus, we let it get hijacked by anything and everything around. I always say our life can be lived by default or by design. And now more than ever, right, there's so many distractions, right? There's so many things that are designed to grab or capture or hijack our attention. There are so many brilliant minds that have mastered exactly how to do so, that everywhere today we are battling, right, a war of distraction. So focus is more difficult than ever, and we have to be more aware than ever. So I think when it comes to focus, beyond starting with an awareness, right, starting with the fact that, hey, where our focus goes, energy flows, and that is a decision that we make in every moment simultaneously, there's some things we can do with that information. First, obvious one is try to eliminate as many of the distractions that can hijack our focus as possible. And we've had conversations on this in the past. I won't belabor it. Many of you know the tools, know the hacks, right? Turn off the things that hijack your attention. I love iPhone's, iOS's new update. They now have the focus setting. Have you guys seen this? If you go to your settings, you now have focus profiles where you can design your phone and your apps and your rings and your dings around different modalities you're in, so you can help with your focus. Check it out, right? Kind of a cool tool. And we can do that with our life, right? Things on our computer and our email and our notifications or the media. And I think one of the first steps we can do is try to reduce or eliminate the things that grab our attention. I'm a fan, because it's so difficult these days, of really eliminating distractions. I'm a fan of designing distractions. So reducing and eliminating is a defense, but an offense could be putting certain visual triggers around that hijack your focus back in a direction you want to go. Some of you guys are like, Blake, what are you talking about? Simple things, all right? I mean, it can be an image on your screensaver on your phone. Every time you look at it, puts you back in a direction. It could be a reminder on, a Post-it note on your desk or your bathroom mirror, your alarm clock. There's so many different things you can do to create visual triggers to immediately say, hey, back over here. Let's put you in a direction that you want to go. So when it comes to focus, there's reducing and eliminating. There is intentionally designing. I'm going to take a seat if that's okay with y'all. As a way to get us back on track. And it is a choice, right, that we want to make on, okay, what are we focused on? And we got to remember that where focus goes, energy flows. Now, sometimes it can be as simple as the awareness of the question, right? All of a sudden, man, my energy is going down the wrong rabbit hole. How many of us have been stuck in that situation where it's like, boom, our focus gets fixated and it's a direction we don't want to go, and our brain starts to ruminate or starts to spiral, and all of a sudden, if we allow it go long enough, we're figuring out every single, thing that could go wrong and what could happen. And you guys, if you think about it, things like stress, right, or anxiety, and then taken to an extreme depression, the fight on mental illness and the conversation and mental health, right, and the conversation we're having today, a lot of it starts with the inability to control our focus. Allowing our focus to go in a direction that doesn't best serve us. And, sometimes it could be as easy as like changing a channel, right, on the television, where it's like, hey, I don't want to put energy there. Let me put energy over here. And you shift your focus. I mean, it can be like changing the topic of a conversation. Some of you all are really good at that. A conversation with your friends at dinner is going a different direction or hits a low point and boom, you change the topic, right? You change the focus of the conversation. Your brain works the same way. And we can get good at changing the topic, the inner conversation, and making that shift. And sometimes it's as easy as changing the direction, shifting the direction, changing the topic in our own mind. But let's also be honest, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you know you're stuck and spinning and it's hard to change the channel in our own head. And in that case, we have to learn how to change our state, how to interrupt our physical pattern. And that's why the tools that we've talked about a lot of the past, things like, hey, just getting out and going for a walk, right? Like we're doing right now. Going for a walk, moving your body is a change of state. Getting out in nature, right, is a change of state. Turning on music that has some positive association, some nostalgic memory can instantly change your state. Smiling, right? The act of just smiling and laughing, even if it's not about anything, right? That physical movement can change your state. Jumping up and down, just jumping up and down, moving your body. All right, that's why rebounders are so popular, can change your state. There's a list of things you can do to interrupt, stop the focus pattern, so that way you can make it easier to make a shift. So guys, the first question we're asking ourselves and the first decision we're making at every moment of our life is, what are we focused on? And we got to learn to be aware, and then we got to learn how to change the channel in a direction that's going to best serve us. Now, I said there were three, right? So you might be saying, well, what's the second decision we're making all the time, every moment simultaneously? The second decision, guys, we're making is, well, what does that mean? What does it mean? You guys, this is a different decision. What we're focused on is what has our attention. What does it mean? Is our interpretation, our perception of what it is that we're focused on. One of my favorite quotes, and I don't know who said it, some of y'all might know the author, is, "Nothing in life has meaning except that which we choose to give." And I love that essence because it's the truth. Nothing has meaning in its raw, natural form until we make the decision on what we want to allow that instance to mean to us. Well, can one instance mean different things? Absolutely. Can it mean different things to different people? All the time. Can it mean different things to us? That's the art, is learning how to assign meaning that is going to best serve us in any instance. And I'll give you an example, right? We, for so many reasons, most of which I probably do not and will not ever comprehend, but somehow we have evolved into a species and a time that just gravitates to a immediate negative state of meaning. That's most people's default. And it might be the survival mechanisms built into our brain, right? It might be, right, us responding to fear. It might be the triggers in the environment that now we're conditioned in. But so many people's default meaning is from the perspective of, man, what's happening to me right now? In other words, something's against me right now. What could go wrong right now? Something bad is happening right now. And for most people and most of us, guys, that's the default state. So when you're focused on something, instantly you're making the second decision of what this means. Most people go straight to the threat, right? To the fear, to the negative. And now you're identifying a meaning, right? To what you're focused on that is not going to serve you. A lot of times that's what triggers a fear cycle. That's what triggers your fight or your flight or your freeze, right? Is the meaning that you choose to give in a certain situation. And we got to learn, just like we got to learn to shift our focus, we got to learn to shift the meaning in every instance to something that's going to better serve us, right? So one question, and we've talked about this in some of our past episodes, right, is instead of, hey, the world's happening to me, we can ask the question, well, what if the world is happening for me? In other words, what if this was in my best interest? What if the universe was conspiring in my favor right now? What if this was for a reason and moving me toward a meant to? What if that were the lens? What else then could this mean? That question shifts the meaning you're going to recognize and the meaning you're going to assign to something that's a more positive state. You know, it's Jim Rohn has a quote out there. He said, it's not the blowing of the wind, it's the set of the sail. Meaning the same wind blows on us all, right? We all run into different things that immediately hijack our focus, and we go to a negative meeting. But it's not the blowing of the wind that dictates the direction or ultimately our destination. It's the set of the sail. It's, can we shift that sail? Can we shift that meaning? Can we identify a way that's going to realign? I was having a conversation with a friend just fairly recently. I won't go into details. It was a personal conversation on just some pretty dramatic and traumatic circumstances that were happening within the household. And it was involving young kids, and my heart was going out as a parent because anybody going through any situation similar, you know it's going to be tough. It's going to be everything, and it puts into perspective the things that matters, and it begs the questions of the, why is this happening to me, right? All the negative states. And, you know, she said something that was so profound and so moving. She said, you know, Blake, what shifted it for me is realizing that how I was choosing to respond to what we were going through wasn't just about me, but it was the example that I was setting, you know, for my son. And I knew that my actions were going to be reflected in his actions, and my decisions were ultimately going to become his internal story. So what I was going through wasn't the obstacle or the challenge or everything that at first I thought it was and spent a lot of time in a dark place thinking. It was really my opportunity to show my child, right, what strength is, what growth is, and how to get through. She's like, that shifted everything for me. I get chills just re-saying it. Because how's that for reassigning a meaning? No matter what we're going through, whether it be us as parents that go through a lot of things, right? Imagine us going through whatever our, you know, scenario, obstacle, challenges, this week, this month, that we get a lot of them as parents, right? One of the hardest things in life. What if we assign meaning as, hey, this wasn't a negative. This was an opportunity for us to set the right example, the right values, the right mindset for our kids that are modeling us. How's that for a shift in meaning? So you guys, the meaning is a decision. And there's any meaning we can choose because nothing has meaning except the meaning we choose to give it. And there's an unlimited amount of meaning you can assign to every single instance of what you go through. And some are going to serve you a lot better than others. Don't get stuck in a meaning that gets you stuck. You know, we had a past conversation I'm reminded of right now that talks about never assign meaning in the present moment. Because if you assign something as good or bad in the present, you deprive it of what it can be in the future. And I know all of us have gone through certain situations in life where, man, by traditional definition, outside looking in, you might say that's a bad scenario. But a year later, 5 years later, sometimes a decade later, sometime down the road, the dots connect. And looking back in hindsight, you realize, wow, I went through that for a reason. That gave me a lesson. That made me stronger. That stopped me from going down a path I wasn't meant to go. That redirected me in a different direction that I was meant to go down. That ended up being a blessing in disguise. And had we decided in that moment that it was negative, we would have deprived it from becoming what it really was meant to be in the future. So we have to be very careful, guys, of the meaning we choose to give in any instance. So the first decision, what are we focused on? The second decision, what does it mean? And both of those are choices we get to make, right? We get to decide. So you're like, what's the last one, right? I said there were 3 simultaneously. Well, the last one that happens instantly in every moment is, what am I going to do about it? What am I focused on? What does it mean? And what am I going to do about it? And you guys, that's how we process. And that last one's about the action, right? It's about the behavior. It's about what we do as a next step. Some of you guys are like, well, like, what if we don't do anything? Well, doing nothing is a decision, right? Doing nothing is an action. You are actively deciding to do nothing, right? But what you'll find is if you get good at the first 2, you get good at being intentional about your focus, being intentional about your meaning, you'll find that learning how to make those subtle shifts make that last step so much easier. Because if you put your focus in a direction you want to go and you attach a meaning that moves you in a powerful and positive way, then you're going to take action, positive steps in a direction that you want. Problem is most people aren't controlling the first 2. They're letting their focus go in a direction they don't want to go. They're attaching meaning that keeps them in a dark or fear-based place. And therefore the actions are often inactions, are a result, right, of the decisions they're making on 1 and 2. Isn't it crazy that if you think about it, what am I focused on? What does it mean? And what am I doing? Those 3 things happen at every moment, all the time, simultaneously, usually without even us having a thought, right, into, hey, maybe I should shift in this different direction. You guys, that's why I wanted to have this conversation, to get us off an autopilot, to get us out of default mode. Everything starts with a little bit of an awareness. And once we have an awareness, we can now start to practice. And this one's simple because you can all remember the 3 questions, right? What are they? You know what they are. What am I focused on? Okay. Do I need to shift it or am I in the right direction? What does this mean? Okay, does that move me in the direction I want, or do I have to rethink what else this could mean? And once I get clear on those 2 things, now what steps can I take in a direction to move me forward? And I promise you guys that framework can be used for simple things in life, and that framework can be used for some of the deepest challenges we'll face, because those 3 questions ultimately dictate the experience, right? The experience that we are creating every single day, that experience we call life. Hey, I'd give you one more view from the top, but there ain't much of a view today. We got a lot of clouds and a lot of gray. I got to head back. Until the next time we walk together, here's to being more intentional on where our focus goes, the meaning we give, and the actions that we take every single day. Take care, everybody.
Hey guys, one last thing. I'm super excited that this new podcast, Alive by Design, just went live. You see, I designed the show to bring you inspired thoughts and fascinating conversations with the world's most impactful people, to provide transformative principles and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. And I'd love for you to help me spread the word now. Simply subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on this platform right now. So if I've ever given you value, please do me this personal favor and go subscribe now. And if you found today's episode helpful in any way, make sure you share this with at least one friend today. You have the power right now to change someone's day. So send them a text message with a link to alivebydesign.com, or simply copy and paste the link right from this podcast platform. Who's one person you know right now that you want to see succeed, that you want to see grow, that you want to see feel more alive? Shoot them a text with your largest takeaway from today and be a light in their day. And if you were referred here by a friend, make sure you shoot them a text back and say thank you. I'd love to hear from you directly on what you got from today's podcast. So if you're up for it, drop by my Instagram @BlakeMalin and shoot me a DM. And as always, thank you for showing up. I'm grateful for you, and I hope our time together today in some small way helped you feel a little more alive. Until next time.